Today we're going to be talking about audits, upgrades, and some new features and updates to the Foundation platform. Let's talk through our agenda for today. So to start off, we will be covering audits, what you should know, what to expect from us through the audit process. And then next, we will review some of the newer OnBase updates and how to utilize the customer success team for an upgrade in the future. Starting with audits, some of you may be initially asking, what is an audit for OnBase and why would I need one? My system has been on the same server, my database runs its maintenance every night, and things have been running smoothly for quite some time. So why are we looking at doing this now? And that is actually great to hear, and that's what we hope all of you are experiencing. Audits are meant to check through some of the basics and fundamentals of your OnBase structure. There's that saying, a building is only as strong as its foundation, and that's what we want to make sure is healthy and capable of continuing to support you and your user base. So let's talk in a little more detail. The audit will provide analysis and comprehensive documentation of your system's current state. We will use reports and queries to measure the efficiency of your system. And at the end of the audit, you will receive recommendations from us on what can be improved to ensure the long-term health of your solution. In having the audit, you will have a list of takeaways to make improvements, a system map that can be added to your own documentation, a better understanding of your OnBase infrastructure. This is especially true if you may be a new admin who wasn't involved in the initial deployment. And lastly, guidance on making effective decisions and improvements for the future. And if all of that sounds good to you, then that's great. Let's talk about some of the things that you should know before we start the audit. The first one is that all SLA customers are entitled to one complimentary audit per year. All you have to do is let the customer success team or your account manager know. Now, there are two types of audits. The first one is the basic audit. This is the most common one that we're going to be talking about today. Everything that we discussed in the previous slide and slides to come will have the basic audit in mind. The second type is the comprehensive audit. The comprehensive audit takes all of the components of the basic audit and then adds additional insight and analysis of more detailed processes or integrations that you may want to know more about. This can include more specific data on your import processes and retrieval methods, as well as maybe a more in-depth overview of your network and security. Next is the time commitment, and we want to be as flexible as possible with you. Ideally, we will only need your time for a connection to gather all of the data, which is what we call the data pull. And after that, we shouldn't need much more until it's time to get together again and review the finished audit. Last is involving the right people. The CST team works with two main groups of people in our day-to-day tasks and assistance with tickets. There's the sysadmins and there's the power users. Both of these can have very different ideas of the current state of OnBase, and we want to involve someone from both if possible to be as collaborative as we can. Here's our process from start to finish. So after we've scheduled the audit, we will provide you with a questionnaire. This questionnaire is meant to give us a head start in preparing for the connection. We will want input from both power users and system admins on things like your maintenance processes, your plans for growth in the future, your overall opinion on how things are running, things like your day-to-day import processes, how you primarily use OnBase and things like that. Those are the things that we're going to want to know, so we are looking at the right things when we are together. After that, we will get connected for the data pull. This is probably the largest time commitment for you, as we will usually need to do this over a web session. During the data pull, we will gather OnBase system reports, run SQL queries, and take lots of screenshots. After the data pull, we will pull back internally and do the write-up based off the information we gathered. The write-up includes a number of review processes with our experts and senior team members to ensure accuracy. We will also add our recommendations along with the impact of those recommendations and including the effort involved to make them happen. Then, once that is all set, we will pass this along and schedule a review session to discuss the audit and answer any questions should you want one. The last thing is the executive report, and this was a new addition to the audit process over this past year. While it's great to have a large, comprehensive document, it's not necessarily meant for everyone. We will be providing you a compilation of all of the reports. This can take over 100 pages to get through everything. So that's why we created this executive summary, where the report is meant to be, a one-page summary of the top areas of focus that we suggest be improved moving forward. And here's a quick overview of the areas of focus on the executive summary. These suggestions aim to provide the quickest and most noticeable impact. So the first one that we noticed here would be to commit or purge your scanned batches. That way they're not duplicating themselves in the database and saving you potential memory. Next one would be something like document maintenance, where maybe you're not purging some of your older documents that you don't need and use anymore, and we'll want to help you set up a maintenance plan to take care of that. Then there's things like user security. Sometimes there are many user accounts that may not have logged into OnBase for quite a long time. And do we really need those? And can we revisit how to work out a better plan for that? And then the last one here was the 2-digit year setting. And this may be something that some of our customers have run into. I know I had a couple of tickets at the start of 2020 where all of a sudden their documents were being indexed as 1920 instead of 2020. And the 2-digit year setting is used to update the appropriate year range so that we can get things back to indexing correctly. And as we move to the cloud, not everyone will have the same access that they may have had with an on-premise environment. Luckily, thanks to one of our team members, Jen, aka Pixie, we have a dashboard that can be used for the data pull with our cloud customers that we're very excited about. This dashboard will capture the majority of the information that we pull from the database to ensure we can keep providing audits to our growing base of cloud customers. So with that, I do have a question for everyone, and that is, when was your last audit? I'm going to see if I can push out this poll. And let's give everyone a minute. All right, I am going to close this poll. And let's share the results. So for some of you, you did an audit just last year. We did make a big push to start getting more audits out, and that's great. If it has been something that you haven't done in a while or even never, I highly encourage that you reach out to us and request this. So like I said earlier, this is complimentary to all customers with an SLA. And then we will talk with you a bit more about the details and the timing on when we can complete that work. So great. Let's shift gears now. Moving on, we're going to talk about upgrades. I'm sure if everyone was unmuted, I may have just gotten a few groans, but that's okay. OnBase Foundation upgrades have become a lot more involved than some of the previous versions of OnBase. There have been a number of changes made to the core of an OnBase system that have caused us to take a step back and review our approach with these upgrades as the customer success team. Over the past year, we have done nearly 50 upgrades to various releases of OnBase Foundation. From recent versions of OnBase 18 to as far back as version 10, we were able to successfully upgrade all of those versions to the latest and greatest versions. Today, we are going to talk about some of the big updates that are actually live with EP4, but will be more prominent with the next long-term release, EP5, which is why we are going to talk about them today with you. That's going to bring us to our next poll. Don't worry, I don't have too many more of these. There's not going to be too much more volunteers that we need to answer these. So let me push out this new poll. Are you planning to upgrade this year? Just a couple more seconds before I close this one. All right, so we've got a couple with a resounding yes, and that is very exciting. I'm very excited to be able to share some of these new features that you'll be able to look forward to. If you just upgraded last year, some of these features will be applicable to you, and definitely feel free to talk about these if you do have questions. And then if you're not sure, then let's go through some of these new features and see, maybe we can convince you. So let's continue. So the first thing is, why should you upgrade? And there are two main reasons that I've been able to think of that may require you to do an upgrade. The first one is product enhancements. There's a new feature that you need to get your hands on. We'll be talking about one of those very shortly. The next one would be platform updates. And this would be, anything that's kind of upgrading behind the scenes of OnBase that are making improvements to security or speed or just efficiency overall. And we'll be talking about those after we go through some of these product enhancements. And I'm going to be talking about probably the one main new one that I've been getting a lot of questions about, and that is Highland Mobile. This is the first and probably biggest update. Highland Mobile is a brand new native platform for modern web applications. Its intent is to streamline mobile development across all of Highland's products and modules. This will start with the brand new OnBase mobile app. Highland Mobile will also be a free download from your device's app store. One of the reasons for doing this is that we can have parity now between the iOS and the Android versions because it is a web application. Highland also needed access into the growing native device capabilities. Things like the fingerprint scanner that has just become second nature to us, camera improvements, and much more that we've been seeing come across our devices over the various years will be included with this update and with future updates. And like I said, this is now out and available on your app store if you wanted to take a look. And while I do not have a demo of this, I do have a few screenshots of the updated interface. As you can see, the primary application will be Highland Mobile, which we will then be used to access a variety of apps that are going to continue coming out. The first one that is available as of Foundation EP4 is OnBase Mobile. So you will go into the Highland Mobile app, and then once you're in there, you'll have access to whatever associated application you need that has the mobile app corresponding to it. So like I said, release with EP4, EP5 will be the first long-term release that this is available in, and it is the next generation of OnBase Mobile. It will provide a modern experience, and for those who need access to OnBase on the go, it works consistently with Android and iOS devices. So what this does mean is that there is no more app-specific licensing, which is very exciting. No more specific iPhone, iPad, or Android licenses. You'll be consuming standard user licenses and workflow user licenses for workflow access. There's a couple of basics to the initial release of this, and there will be more coming out, but we wanted to get this out as quickly as we could for our users. Again, a couple of screenshots here. The initial release will include document search via standard custom queries. There will be a workflow option for on the go. If you need to do any type of approval in a workflow, you can do that here. We'll have Unity forms, and we'll have the option to upload documents. So the functionality is going to be fairly basic at the moment, but provides access to many of the core and necessary elements of OnBase that are useful for you when you are on the go. You can expect more updates and added features as the development continues. Here's a quick look at what document search would look like, or even document upload once you've uploaded the document and get the preview. The plus sign down at the bottom would allow you to edit the keywords. And here's what the Unity forms would look like. And I have not been able to play too much with this myself, but from my understanding, it will work with whatever the current configuration of the Unity form is and fit it accordingly with the dimensions of the screen. And we will be doing a complete demo of this in an upcoming sales webinar, so please do stay tuned if you're interested in this. And let your account manager know if you want to learn more about Highland Mobile and how it works, and we'll be able to get that material out to you. Now let's move on to some platform updates. And these may be a bit more behind the scenes, but they will still have a pretty nice impact for some of us, especially depending on how you utilize your solution. The first one, and brand new as of EP2, has been updated to include configuration elements, and EP4 is the addition of REST APIs. So the OnBase Document Management API is a representational state transfer, or also known as REST API, which offers programmatic access to an OnBase database. This update includes creating endpoints for various OnBase activities, such as viewing and uploading document content or metadata, viewing and replacing keyword data on a document, executing a custom query, and retrieving various OnBase configuration items like document types, keyword types, file types, and others. This functionality has been made possible by the new additions to the API and IDP server in the foundation. We would likely need a whole another webinar devoted to these two additions in OnBase Foundation, but they have created a lot of new options from development, security, and integration perspectives. These next few platform updates we will talk through are all thanks to the updates to the API server. So REST APIs have given you the ability to do a lot of the OnBase configuration outside of the OnBase configuration application, as long as you have the proper REST APIs in place. So if you do have questions about that, please feel free to let us know. Let's talk about two new security enhancements that are possible when the API server is installed within the environment. First, the application settings utility. The app settings utility allows you to now pass values discreetly so that you won't see connection information in a web.config in plain text. So this will encrypt those connection strings, anything ADO.NET or data source related, we can encrypt those. You can also encrypt JSON files, which was not native functionality previously, which is very helpful for other integrations or if OnBase needs to access any of those JSONs. It also has its own MRG and currently comes as out-of-the-box functionality with the new API server. Next would be the temporary file service, and this is its own component of the API server. It is designed to globally manage temporary files. One of the challenges of the application server and previous versions of OnBase is that there are different features that manage temp files in different locations. And this is something that we do tend to work with fairly often. So your OnBase clients may host the temp files directly on individual workstations. And then you have other modules like perhaps data capture, where the temp files are stored wherever the data capture server relies. And this can go on and on depending on the different type of module that you own. So this can build up depending on the size of your solution. This new service aims to manage that more efficiently in the API server as a backend service. It will be done from a command line utility, and you'll be able to set up different rules for how that temp file will be stored and anything associated with it. So very cool feature. You do need the API server for this. If you do have any questions though, then please feel free to let us know. Next, we're going to talk about change control. And I did a webinar not too long ago on some updates to change control. But one thing that I did not get to talk about, and I want to circle back around to this sort of because it fits under this topic, is the test system creation utility. And this thing is very fast, very cool. I am excited to talk about it. The test system creation originally made its debut in OnBase 18 as a replacement to the configuration migration utility. We use this and the import and export framework to stand up net new test environments for projects and customers. As of OnBase Foundation, it has undergone updates to the user interface, and it also has the ability to be scripted now. The test system creation utility allows you to choose specific configuration items that you want to pull from an existing environment. This can include document types, keyword types, custom queries, autofills, and much more. By default, no production documents are copied over to the new test environment, but you can now specify a specific subset of documents to copy or populate your test environment, should you want that capability. This allows admins to target a specific subset of documents returned from a custom query. And just to provide a little more context, we actually used this tool recently for one of our insurance customers that needed a net new environment stood up for third-party developers. Their production environment contained a lot of sensitive data that could not be viewed by those third-party developers, but they wanted it to copy over all of the configuration aspects of the system. So instead of standing up a brand new environment and then doing a refresh, connecting all of the import processes, the disk groups, etc., we used the test system creation utility to then give them a blank slate without having to do any of the configuration. And that way we didn't have to figure out how we were going to scrub some of that personal data and private information. And should you want to bring over some documents from production, that is possible as well through this utility. Here's a quick screenshot of what that interface looks like. So from this interface here, we would be pulling from recent document types that enter production, and we would choose 30 for each of them if you see that highlighted maximum results per document type. There are other options, as you can see from this screen, such as you can pull from a custom query instead of your recent documents, and you can do this with user accounts as well. And one of the last updates to talk about here is the new Foundation DB-utils. Believe it or not, the legacy DB-utils has not changed much since its release in 2003. That means that DB-utils is now 18 years old. It's now an adult. It's time for them to go off to college and do their own thing. So goodbye and safe travels to the DB-utils. This takes us to the newest version. Foundation DB Utils replaces the existing tab-based user interaction required utility with a command line utility. Features of this include a command line interface with an optional configuration file. It has parity with the original DB Utils features, so it does everything that DB Utils previously did, and because it's command line utility, it can also be scripted, should that be relevant to you or your organization. So this did come out in Foundation EP3, but was primarily used for the creation of new databases. For Foundation EP4, it will be used for upgrading existing databases. To provide a quick timeline, just to go over this again, with EP3, you were allowed to use both. You needed to use it for the initial database creation, the new DB Utils utility. As a Foundation EP4, though, we will be using the new utility moving forward for both net new databases as well as upgrading existing databases. So here's a quick example of how you would use the new DB Utils. If you were upgrading from OnBase 18 to EP4 or later, you will use the new EP4 OnBase configuration application to start your upgrade. After it is finished, you will get a message that you need to use the Foundation DB Utils to complete your upgrade. After running the DB Utils, the updated one, and upgrading, you will be able to use EP4 clients. So as a result of this, it no longer requires an ODBC. It takes seconds instead of minutes. It will automatically check to determine if customers are currently on maintenance, and it will automatically know if it can be upgraded. Foundation DB Utils can upgrade from EP3 to EP4 and then greater. If a customer is on OnBase 18, they will use configuration to get from 18 to EP3 and then use the DB Utils to get to anything beyond that. Hyland will also be considering using an updated GUI, graphic user interface, for the future as well. And just to provide a few sample screens for you, this would be the base screen. So we would see all of our options here for starting out. Once we begin, it would show us that it's loaded the schema, provide a couple of other instructions as you go. And then while it's completing, it will show you the data source name it's completing to, and then the challenge code, and confirm when the challenge code has succeeded. So again, the updated Foundation DB Utils will be much faster. Well, maybe see some improvements coming down the line for graphic user interface, but if you have any questions on this, please do let us know. We're happy to provide you with some more information. So if all of this sounds interesting to you, we want to help. Navient has been assisting with upgrades using any of our senior OnBase certified installer resources to work on customer upgrades for quite some time. We have become very familiar with the upgrade process to OnBase Foundation. Here are some things to know if you are interested. First would be compatibility. We want to make sure that we will be using the correct hardware and software so the system runs smoothly. For example, Windows 2008 Server is not compatible with OnBase Foundation, as well as earlier versions of Windows Server 2012. We will want to make sure that we have compatible servers, database versions, and workstations, as well as any of your integrations and third-party applications, so that everything is happy and healthy once we complete the upgrade. There's a ton of documentation out there on Hyland's website, such as the third-party compatibility matrix and the technical requirements overview document. If you do need a copy of that, please do let us know, and we can talk through that with you. The next question would be to refresh or not to refresh. We always recommend to keep at least one lower environment as close to the production environment as possible. This allows for easier time developing in a test environment or failover should it be necessary. A refresh does add some work to the overall upgrade, but it is always recommended to do when preparing for one. Please do let us know if you have any questions around this process. And then another little housekeeping item, full text search has been completely replaced. It has completely replaced full text search for Autonomy Idle as of the end of 2020. This has become a common add-on with our upgrade process to install the new full text search and assist with the configuration of it as well. This is mostly done within OnBase configuration now and does not require nearly as many moving parts and components as Idle did. Lastly, we want to remind you that all SLA customers have a bank of hours as part of their annual agreement. This bank of hours can go towards your upgrade with the customer success team and can likely cover at least all of one environment with not much in additional hours required. Please do let us know if you have any questions on your current bank of hours. When you do choose to upgrade with Navient, we like to be as transparent and collaborative as possible. Our methodology consists of the following: upgrade kickoff to verify the requirements, meet the team that will be performing the upgrade, as well as get to know you and your team. We'll look to answer any questions and we'll develop the project plan. We'll then look at what our schedule will be like and how we can make sure that we're meeting our requirements and deadlines. Then we will upgrade the lower environment and we'll do our baseline testing. So one of the things that we have here is unit testing, which we also call baseline testing, and that is where we make sure that we can access OnBase via your authentication method. We'll make sure that we can import documents, and we'll make sure that we can retrieve documents. The more thorough testing, we rely a lot on U4, and we'll talk a bit more about that shortly. So like I said, we'll move on to the UAT phase. And the UAT phase is the users, the power users, and anyone who we need to validate the upgrade to take a look there. You know your environments way better than we do, and we are happy to help you with learning what it is that you'll need to test to make sure that we don't miss anything, but we do rely a lot on the users and the knowledge of the users to make sure that everything that they are used to using is working as expected. After all of that is verified, we will proceed with the production upgrade and go live. We'll make sure that we have a solid, concrete cutover plan for you, and we'll help you make any communications to your user base should that be needed. And then lastly, we will provide some hypercare once we do go live to make sure that the rollout is successful, and then we'll transition back into our standard support processes. The other thing that I wanted to talk about here was our smaller projects versus larger projects. Our methodology is the same for both. But for some of you, if you do have more than 2 environments, if you have complex integrations, or if you do have a large server farm within your solution, we would want to do that as probably a full larger project to make sure that we have an excellent and successful upgrade. If you do have any questions on how to proceed with your upgrade, please do contact the support team or your account manager. And just to provide a sample of what to expect, during our kickoff meeting, we will make sure to confirm the requirements of the upgrade. So as you can see here, we would be talking about doing what we call an in-place upgrade. That means we're staying on the same servers. We're just going to be replacing the existing OnBase versions with the updated OnBase versions. We would do a refresh of test from production. So this would be done as part of the test upgrade. We'll replace idle with full text search, and we would do it in both environments. And then what the configuration upgrade includes: the database upgrade, the install of the new the new software, the converting of idle to full text, converting reporting services to reporting dashboards, depending on what version we're going from. And we'll make sure to migrate workflow timers to Unity Scheduler if we needed to do that as well. We also want to work with you on scheduling to maintain our time frame and meet any deadlines that you may have. We will propose the dates during the kickoff meeting and then help you meet the goals with testing and more from there. So testing, like I've been saying so far, and hopefully you're getting an idea, is so important because we want to make sure that everything is working for you as expected once we make the jump to the go live. While we can't do all the testing for you, we certainly can help. And as a project manager for the majority of our upgrades that are done within the customer success team, I will help define what specific processes need to be tested, identify those requirements and on-base components that we are using, and then help you with breaking down and implementing a strategy to ensure that everything is covered. Our goal is to have as few surprises as possible when the production upgrade goes live. Once we have finished and validated testing, we'll help to create a go live plan similar to what you're seeing here, where we go step by step through the upgrade process so that there are no surprises to you once we get in there to perform the actual work. So I hope we were able to shed some light around both audits and upgrades, as well as how the Navient customer success team can assist with both. There are so many great new features that have come out this past year in On-Base Foundations, and I really only scratched the surface in my presentation today. If you do have any questions, again, please do reach out to us or your account manager, and we'll see what we can do for you.